What's the real price of arrogance? Tiffany Vance, a model flaunting a $20,000 handbag and a withering remark for everyone, was about to find out. As the girlfriend of a hotshot CEO, she was dining at the city's most exclusive restaurant. Spotting Ellie, the unassuming waitress in her cheap $20 polyester uniform, Tiffany saw nothing more than an insect to squash. She proceeded to humiliate, mock, and ultimately assault her. But Tiffany remained ignorant of a crucial detail. She wasn't just mocking a waitress. She was mocking Evelyn Rostov, the billionaire queen who owned the restaurant, the building, and, for that matter, her boyfriend's entire company. The quiet hum of Le Waldor was a meticulously crafted symphony of understated wealth. It wasn't the chaotic clang of plates and boisterous chatter of some diner. Instead, it was the subdued clink of weighty silverware against fine bone china, the crystalline chime of baccarat glasses, and the murmur of voices casually discussing million-dollar deals and lavish European vacations. The very air seemed saturated with the scent of old money, truffles, and a subtle floral perfume that appeared to be circulated through the vents. To survive a single shift here, you needed more than just strong legs. You needed the diplomatic poise of a seasoned ambassador, the flawless memory of a supercomputer, and the thick skin of a rhinoceros. Ellie, Table 4 requires a decant on the 98 Lafite, and Table 7 is inquiring about the Wagyu sourcing. Don't reveal that it's from the Hyogo prefecture. Just tell them it's from a private, sustainable farm we partner with in Hyogo. Stick to the script, Mr. Bissett instructed, his face a permanently etched mask of polite anxiety, his tuxedo so starched it could practically stand up on its own. Yes, Mr. Bissett. On it, Evelyn replied, her voice striking the perfect balance between deference and competence. Here she was, Ellie. Ellie, the dependable, discreet waitress who never committed an error. Ellie, who earned $14.50 an hour plus tips that, in this establishment, often surpassed a normal person's weekly salary. Ellie, who resided in a small, unremarkable apartment downtown and commuted to work by bus. But in the world beyond this 3 Michelin star bubble, she was Evelyn Rostov. Evelyn Rostov didn't ride the bus. She owned a company dedicated to developing the next generation of electric public transportation. She didn't live in a small apartment. She owned the entire brownstone, along with several other properties in London, Paris, and Hong Kong. And she certainly wasn't just Ellie. The press, in their more lazy moments, had nicknamed her the Billionaire Queen, or the Ghost of Wall Street. At 34, she was the sole, anonymous owner of Aura Capital, a private equity and venture capital firm so immense and secretive, it was more legend than corporation. Aura Capital didn't just invest. It consumed. It acquired distressed assets, up-and-coming tech startups, and, as of 6 months prior, the entire Golden Spire Hospitality Group, which encompassed Le Waldor and 20 other high-end properties. And it was decaying. The spreadsheets and reports that landed on her desk showed profits, but the data, the real human data, screamed a different story. Employee turnover was at an all-time high. Anonymous reviews from staff members cited a culture of fear, with managers who placated abusive high rollers while throwing their own people under the bus. So Evelyn did what she always did. She cut her hair, stowed away her bespoke suits, and went to witness the decay firsthand. She'd been Ellie for 3 weeks now. Hey, Ellie, whispered Sarah, another waitress, as they passed each other by the service station. Sarah was a single mother with a quick smile and perpetually weary eyes. You okay? You look 1,000 miles away. Just thinking about the wine list, Evelyn lied with a smile. That 98 Lafite isn't going to decant itself. Tell me about it. I've got a 5-top of tech bros at table 9 who just asked me if our caviar is responsibly unalived. I swear I'm one stupid question away from screaming. Evelyn laughed, a genuine warm sound. Hang in there. Only 4 more hours. 4 more hours, Sarah muttered, balancing a heavy tray. That's half a babysitting bill. Evelyn watched her go, her smile fading. Sarah was a good person, a hard worker, and the system was breaking her. Bissett, for all his precision, managed through intimidation. The kitchen was chronically understaffed. The uniforms, a cruel joke of cheap, scratchy polyester, were demeaning. This was the decay. This was what the spreadsheets failed to reveal. She retrieved the 98 Lafite from the temperature-controlled cellar, her mind already calculating. The Golden Spire acquisition had cost $8 billion. The systemic failure in its management culture was costing her even more. It was costing her good people. As she returned to the floor, Bissett intercepted her. "Ellie, you're moving. Table 11, a VIP. He's the CEO of Apex Innovations, Michael Thorne. Apparently, he's a very important client." Evelyn's antenna shot up. Apex Innovations. She recognized that name. Aura Capital had just finalized a hostile takeover of the fledgling tech company 2 weeks prior. It had been a messy, aggressive acquisition. The board had been cleared out, but the CEO, Michael Thorne, had been kept on conditionally. His name was on a file on her desk, flagged for redundancy review. "Of course, Mr. Bissett," Evelyn said, her voice smooth. "He's with a guest," Bissett said, his lip twitching in a manner that suggested the guest was difficult. "Be perfect." "I always am," Evelyn said. She walked toward table 11, the best table in the house, a secluded booth overlooking the twinkling city lights. A man in a sharp, aggressively modern Tom Ford suit was staring intently at his phone, his face pale and strained. But it wasn't him who spoke. It was the woman across from him. A cloud of blonde hair, red lips, and a dress that appeared to be crafted from diamonds. She was tapping a blood-red, inch-long fingernail on her water glass. Tap, tap, tap. "Excuse me," the woman snapped, not even looking up. "How long does a girl have to wait for a simple glass of champagne? I asked for it 10 minutes ago. Does nobody work here?" Evelyn stopped, placing the wine cradle for table 4 on a nearby stand. "My apologies, ma'am. I'll be your server for this evening. I'm just taking over this section." The woman finally looked up. Her eyes, a cold, piercing blue, scanned Evelyn from head to toe. It wasn't just a glance. It was an assessment, an appraisal. And the verdict was clear. Disgust. "You?" she scoffed, a derisive laugh escaping her red lips. "Oh no. No, this won't do. Michael, look at this. Is this what a 3-star restaurant calls service? They're sending us the help." Michael Thorne didn't look up from his phone. "Tiffany, please," he muttered, his thumb swiping frantically. "Just order. I'm busy." "I am busy," Tiffany snapped back, her voice rising. "I'm busy trying to have a nice evening, and I have to look at this." She gestured dismissively at Evelyn. "That uniform. It's just sad. Polyester. Really? You probably bought that at a gas station." Evelyn stood, her face a perfect mask of professional calm. Inside, the billionaire queen was taking notes. Evelyn maintained her relaxed posture, her hands clasped lightly in front of her. "My name is Ellie, and I will be your server. May I start you with that champagne? We have a wonderful tasting option by the glass." "Stop," Tiffany said, holding up her hand. The massive canary yellow diamond on her ring finger flashed, catching the light. "Just stop talking. First of all, Ellie, were your parents too poor to afford a full name? Second, I don't do by the glass. That's for people like you." She leaned in, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper that was still loud enough for the next table to hear. "I'm Tiffany Vance. You might have seen my Vogue cover or my new perfume line, Envy." Evelyn's face remained impassive. "I'm afraid I haven't, ma'am." Tiffany's smile faltered, replaced by a sneer. "Of course you haven't. What would you read? Waitressing for Dummies? Just get us the most expensive bottle you have. Something I can pronounce and you can't." This was the moment Michael Thorne finally looked up from his phone, his face a mask of pure stress. He was handsome in a generic boardroom and gym kind of way, but his eyes were bloodshot. "Tiff, for God's sake, be nice," he hissed, glancing around nervously. "This is an important night." "It is an important night," Tiffany declared, throwing her hands up dramatically. "We're celebrating. You just closed that huge deal. You're the CEO. You're a king. Why are we being served by a peasant? Ma'am, I can assure you I am perfectly capable of... Evelyn began, but Tiffany cut her off. Oh, I'm sure you're capable. You're capable of writing down what I say. Let's see if you can manage that. She looked at Michael. Babe, what was that wine you told me about? The one that costs more than her car? Tiff, I don't care. Just pick one. Fine. I'll do it myself. Just go back to your important phone thing. She turned her icy gaze back to Evelyn. We'll have let's see, the Romani Conti, the 2005, and 2 appetizers, the Ode to the Sea platter. And no. What are those? Prawns? Tell the chef to use lobster instead. I don't eat poor people's shrimp. Evelyn didn't write it down. She didn't need to. An excellent choice, ma'am. The 2005 Romani Conti. And you'd like the kitchen to substitute lobster on the platter? I will check with the chef to see if that modification is possible. Don't check, Tiffany snapped. Just make it happen. That's your job, isn't it? Making things happen for people who matter. Michael winced but said nothing. He was staring at his phone again, his brow furrowed. He hadn't made eye contact with Evelyn once. He hadn't even really seen her. To him, she was just part of the furniture, a silent, polyester-clad cog in the machine of his celebration. Evelyn gave a slight, tight-lipped nod. Very well. I will inform the kitchen of your request. She turned, her movements economical and precise, and walked away. The moment she was out of their sight line, she let out a slow, controlled breath. The decay wasn't just in the management. It was in the clientele they cultivated, the kind of person who thought CEO meant king, and that a king deserved to have servants, not staff. She found Mr. Bissett at the host's stand. Mr. Bissett, Table 11 is requesting a substitution of lobster on the Ode to the Sea. Chef's policy on that is no. Absolutely not, Bissett said, not looking up from his reservation chart. The platter is balanced. The chef will have a conniption. Tell them no. The guest is insistent, Evelyn said evenly. She is with Michael Thorne of Apex Innovations. Bissett's head snapped up. Thorne? Why didn't you say so? He's a Golden Spire Black Card member. He's important. Bissett's eyes darted around nervously. Give her whatever she wants. A whole dancing lobster if she asks for it. Just keep them happy. Do not lose that table. And the wine? Evelyn asked. What about it? She ordered the 2005 Romani Conti. Bissett actually turned pale. The $18,000 bottle? Are they serious? She seemed very serious, Evelyn said. My God. Okay. Bissett was visibly sweating. The key for that is in the main safe. I'll have to get it. You just go and, I don't know, pour them some water but use the Baccarat crystal, not the standard. Yes, Mr. Bissett. As Evelyn retrieved the heavy, sparkling crystal water goblets, she felt a cold anger settling in her stomach. Bissett's entire management philosophy was placate the rich. He was willing to throw his chef, his staff, and the restaurant's own policies into the fire, all to bow down to a black card member. A black card membership that Evelyn's own company had issued. She returned to the table. Michael was now pacing a few feet away, his back to the table, speaking in low, urgent tones into his phone. No, you don't understand. The deal is done. I don't know what Aura Capital is playing at. Just tell the board to wait. Evelyn's hand, holding the heavy water pitcher, didn't so much as tremble. Aura Capital. Her company. So Michael was on the phone with his board, who were clearly panicking about their new, silent owners. This wasn't a celebration. It was a desperate man trying to cling to his kingdom. Finally, Tiffany sighed dramatically as Evelyn approached. I'm parched. Did you get the wine? Mr. Bissett is retrieving it from the cellar, ma'am, Evelyn said, pouring the sparkling water with a steady hand. Humph. Well, I suppose it takes time to dust off a bottle that old. Tiffany watched her, a predatory gleam in her eye. She was bored. And a bored Tiffany Vance, Evelyn was learning, was a dangerous animal. You know, Tiffany said, leaning forward conspiratorially, My boyfriend, he's a very, very powerful man. The CEO. Do you even know what that means? It means Chief Executive Officer, Evelyn replied, her voice flat. It means he's the boss. Tiffany laughed. A high, tinkling sound. He's the top, the king. And I am his queen. Which means when I'm here, I'm the queen. And you? She said, tapping a red nail on Evelyn's arm. You're just a servant. Evelyn didn't flinch. Is there anything else I can get for you while you wait? Ma'am? Yes, Tiffany said, her smile widening. You can tell me. Do you even dream? Or do people like you just, sleep? I bet you dream of a life like mine. A handsome CEO, a fat bank account, Vogue covers. But you'll never have it. You're plain and you're poor. It's a sad combination, isn't it? The insult was so juvenile, so cartoonishly evil, that Evelyn almost smiled. She had been called many things in her career. A shark, a phantom, a ruthless visionary, but plain and poor were new. I dream of getting your order correct, ma'am, Evelyn said. Tiffany's face darkened. The smile vanished. You're a smug little thing, aren't you? All high and mighty in your little polyester apron. You think you're better than me? I haven't thought about you at all, ma'am, Evelyn said, and the words were out before she could stop them. They were the truth, and they landed with the force of a slap. Tiffany's jaw dropped. Michael, hearing the shift in tone, hung up his call and hurried back. What's wrong, Tiff? What is it? This, Tiffany gasped, her hand flying to her chest in faux outrage. She just insulted me. Michael, she called me. She implied I was stupid. I did no such thing, ma'am, Evelyn said calmly. Michael, are you going to let her talk to me like that? Do something. Michael looked at Evelyn, his eyes full of a frantic, weak anger. He was a man cornered, stressed by his board, and now his girlfriend was creating a scene. He needed a target, and Evelyn was the easiest one. What's your name? He demanded. Ellie, sir. Well, Ellie, sir. He spat, mimicking her politeness. You just made a very big mistake. I am Michael Thorne. I spend over $100,000 a year at this restaurant group. I am going to have your job. I want to see your manager now. Right? Tiffany chimed in, crossing her arms, a victorious smirk on her face. Go get your little boss, little girl. It's time for you to be fired. Mr. Bissett arrived at the table, his face already composed in an expression of profound apology. He had seen the storm clouds gathering from across the dining room. Mr. Thorne, Miss Vance, is there a problem this evening? Bissett asked, his voice a smooth, practiced bomb. A problem? Tiffany shrieked, making several other tables turn. We have a massive problem. Your waitress just insulted me. She was rude. She was disrespectful. And she basically called me an idiot. I am deeply, deeply sorry, Bissett said, bowing his head slightly. He didn't ask what was said. He didn't ask for Evelyn's side of the story. He immediately turned on her. Ellie, what did you say to Miss Vance? I merely answered her questions. Mr. Bissett, Evelyn said, her voice still. Don't lie, you little rat, Tiffany snapped. She was being smug. She's got an attitude. I can't stand an attitude from the help. I want her gone. Fire her. Do it now or we're leaving. And Michael is pulling his black card account. Michael, who had resumed his frantic texting, nodded in agreement. She's right. The service has been appalling. We're trying to celebrate, and this person has ruined our night. Bissett's face went from pale to ashen. The idea of losing a black card member was, in his small, terrified world, the apocalypse. Ellie, he said, turning to her, his voice low and shaking with fury. Go to the back now. You are suspended for the rest of the night. Clean out your locker. He had fired her. Just like that. No questions, no investigation. Just a summary execution to appease the king and his queen. Evelyn looked at Bissett. She saw a man so broken by the system. He was now a willing cog. A man who would sacrifice his own staff to protect a bottom line he didn't even profit from. No, Evelyn said. The word was quiet, but it landed in the luxurious silence of the restaurant like a grenade. Bissett's eyes widened. What? What did you say? Tiffany's jaw dropped. Even Michael looked up from his phone. I said, "No, Mr. Bissett," Evelyn repeated, her voice gaining a strength that Ellie had never possessed. "I will not be going to the back. I will not be cleaning out my locker. And I will not be suspended because this woman is having a tantrum." A tantrum, Tiffany shrieked. She was on her feet now. "You insignificant. Nothing. Who do you think you are?" "And you, Mr. Bissett," Evelyn continued, her gaze locking on the manager, "have just failed your final test. Sacrificing your staff to placate a bully? That's not management. That's cowardice. You're fired." Bissett sputtered, his face turning a blotchy red. "You are trespassing. I'm calling security." "Good," Evelyn said. Call them right now." At that precise moment, as if summoned by the sheer drama, the sommelier arrived, wheeling a small, reverent cart. On it, nestled in a velvet holder, was the 2005 Romanée-Conti. It was $18,000 of liquid history, and it was about to become a projectile. Tiffany saw the bottle. Her eyes, which were already wild with rage, narrowed into slits. She saw her celebration ruined. She saw a lowly waitress defying her. She saw a way to end this, to put the servant back in her place in the most definitive way possible. "You want to know who I am?" Tiffany snarled at Evelyn. "I'm the one who matters. And you." She grabbed the bottle from the sommelier's cart. "Ma'am, no." The sommelier gasped, reaching for it, but he was too late. "You," Tiffany repeated, "are trash." She didn't just pour the wine. She didn't just spill it. She flung it. In a high-arching, dramatic spray, Tiffany Vance emptied the entire $18,000 bottle of Domaine de la Romanée-Conti directly onto Evelyn. The dining room didn't just go silent. It died. The air was sucked out of the room. All that could be heard was the drip, drip, drip of dark, priceless burgundy onto the marble floor and the heavy, panicked breathing of Mr. Bissett. Evelyn stood frozen. She was drenched from head to toe. The cheap polyester uniform was stained a deep, dark purple. The sticky, sweet-smelling wine dripped from her hair, off her chin, down her neck. Tiffany stood back, the empty bottle still in her hand, her chest heaving. She had a look of wild, triumphant ecstasy on her face. "There," she panted, tossing the bottle onto the floor, where it rolled with a hollow sound. "That's where you belong. Covered in the dirt from my shoes, or in this case, the wine from my table." She turned to Michael. "See, babe? That's how you handle problems." Michael Thorne looked green. He wasn't looking at Tiffany. He wasn't looking at the gasping staff. He was staring at Evelyn, but he wasn't seeing a waitress. He was seeing a lawsuit. He was seeing the end of his career. This was not a black card problem. This was an assault problem. "Tiff," he whispered, his voice cracking, "what did you do?" Evelyn slowly, very slowly, raised her head. The wine dripped from her eyelashes. She didn't look angry. She didn't look humiliated. She looked calculating. She unclipped the Ellie name tag from her sodden apron and let it fall into the puddle at her feet. "Mr. Bissett," she said, her voice no longer the deferential whisper of Ellie, but the clear, cold, commanding tone of Evelyn Rostov. "You are right to call security. You're going to need them, but not for me." She looked past the cowering manager, past the horrified diners, and locked eyes with a man sitting alone at a small table by the bar. He had been there for 3 hours, sipping a single glass of water, observing. He wore a simple, well-cut suit and had the unblinking, patient gaze of a predator. Evelyn gave him the smallest, almost imperceptible nod. The man, Jack, her head of security and personal assistant, folded his newspaper, placed a $100 bill on his table, and began to stand up. The show was over. It was time for the cleanup. Jack moved with an economy of motion that was almost frightening. He wasn't a bouncer, he was a scalpel. He crossed the dining room in 5 silent strides, his eyes never leaving his principal. He was holding his own suit jacket, a dark, impeccably tailored cashmere wool blend. "Miss Rostov," he said, his voice a low, respectful baritone that cut through the stunned silence. He held the jacket open. Evelyn turned and slid her arms into the silk-lined sleeves, shrugging off the soaked, cheap polyester apron. In the same motion, she pulled the jacket closed, the dark cashmere covering the wine-stained uniform. The transformation was instantaneous. The bedraggled Ellie was gone. In her place stood a woman radiating an authority so absolute. It was chilling. The entire restaurant seemed to tilt on its axis. "Ms. Rostov," Mr. Bissett whispered, his face having cycled through every shade of white and red, and now settling on a mottled gray. He knew that name. Everyone in the world of high finance knew that name. Tiffany Vance just laughed. A high, nervous sound. "Oh, come on, Ms. Rostov. What is this, a movie? Did you call your dad? Is he the head janitor?" But Michael Thorne didn't laugh. He was staring at Evelyn, his face a horror mask. The name Rostov, combined with the name he'd been hearing all day, Aura Capital, had just formed a connection in his brain that sent a jolt of pure, undiluted terror through his system. "Evelyn Rostov," he stammered, the words barely audible. "As in, Aura Capital." Evelyn's gaze snapped to him. It was the first time she had truly looked at him all night. Her eyes were not angry. They were worse. They were disappointed. "You're quicker than you look, Michael," she said. "Though not by much," she said, her voice saturated with the very wine that had stained her clothes. No, it can't be," Michael stammered, shaking his head vehemently. She's a myth," they said. "The board said she's a recluse. No one's ever seen her. They're not wrong." Evelyn stated simply, "I value my privacy. I find it's the only way to get a truly honest assessment of my acquisitions." The color completely vanished from Michael's face. "Your acquisition? Apex Innovations," Evelyn replied, as if she were casually discussing the weather. "My little passion project from 2 weeks ago, the one you were supposed to be stabilizing." At that precise moment, Michael's phone, which he was still clutching with a white-knuckled grip, began to vibrate violently. He glanced down. The screen was illuminated. Caller ID, Aura Capital, David Hayes, lead counsel. Michael emitted a small, strangled sound, almost like a dying animal. His thumb, slick with sweat, fumbled to answer the call. He held the phone to his ear. "Hello," he whispered, barely audible. He didn't need to say anything else. A voice, tiny and cold, erupted from the earpiece, loud enough for both Evelyn and Tiffany to hear in the tense silence. "Michael, what in God's name is going on over there? We're getting live reports from Ms. Rostov's security. She's been assaulted. The entire acquisition is off the table. The morals clause is being invoked. You're fired, Thorne. Your access is already revoked. Your career is over. Do you hear me? Over." Michael Thorne's $5,000 phone slipped from his numb fingers and clattered uselessly onto the floor. Tiffany Vance had finally stopped laughing. Her painted-on smile was now frozen in place, her blue eyes wide and unblinking. The gears in her brain were grinding, desperately trying to process a reality that she simply could not comprehend. "Michael," she managed, her voice a small, pathetic squeak. "Babe, what is he talking about? Ms. Rostov? Or a capital? This is a joke, right? A really, really sick joke." Evelyn turned her full attention to Tiffany. "This," she said, gesturing dismissively at her wine-soaked clothes, "is an $18,000 bottle of wine. This," she continued, gesturing towards the restaurant, "is my restaurant. And that," she said, pointing a long, steady finger at the completely catatonic Michael, "is my former employee. You, Ms. Vance, are not a queen. You are a liability." I, Tiffany stammered, looking from the phone on the floor to Michael and then back to Evelyn. "But you're a waitress. I saw you. You had a name tag." "I did." Evelyn agreed. "A billionaire queen, as your kind so crudely puts it, can be a waitress. But a cruel, entitled, and frankly stupid person like you can only be one thing. What? Tiffany whispered, her voice barely audible. A defendant, Evelyn stated flatly. Jack. Jack stepped forward, his own phone already in hand. The police are en route, Miss Rostov. They should be here in approximately 3 minutes to take Ms. Vance's statement. Statement? Tiffany shrieked, the reality of the situation finally hitting her with the force of a physical blow. Police? You're calling the cops on me? You assaulted an employee? Evelyn said simply, not even raising her voice. You destroyed. She paused for a moment, looking at the puddle of wine on the floor. $18,000 in private property. And you caused a public disturbance. I'm not calling the cops on you, Tiffany. I'm serving you. It's what we in the service industry do, after all. Michael, do something. Tiffany screamed, grabbing her boyfriend's arm desperately. But Michael Thorne didn't respond. He had completely sunk into the plush banquette, his eyes vacant and empty, his face completely, utterly, and hopelessly broken. He wasn't a CEO anymore. He wasn't a king of anything. He was just a man who had lost absolutely everything because he had hitched his wagon to the wrong, cruel, diamond-encrusted star. The arrival of the police was, like everything else at Lawalder, remarkably discreet. 2 uniformed officers, led by a plainclothes detective, entered not through the main dining room, but through the staff entrance, guided by Jack. They bypassed the gawking diners and arrived directly at table 11. Ma'am, the detective, a weary-looking man who introduced himself as Detective Sullivan, addressed Evelyn. I'm told you're the one who called. I am, Evelyn replied, pulling Jack's jacket tighter around her. That woman, she said, pointing directly at Tiffany, is Tiffany Vance. She assaulted me and willfully destroyed $18,000 worth of restaurant property. Your officers will find the bottle on the floor with her fingerprints all over it. It's a misunderstanding, Tiffany shrieked, her voice cracking with desperation. It was an accident. Tell them, Michael. Tell them it was an accident. Michael Thorne finally moved. He slowly raised his head, his eyes completely devoid of life. She threw it on purpose, he mumbled, his voice barely audible. She called her trash. I heard her. The betrayal was absolute. In his last pathetic act as a CEO, Michael Thorne had chosen self-preservation above all else. He would be the witness, not the accomplice. Tiffany looked at him as if he had physically stabbed her in the heart. Michael, no. Ma'am, Detective Sullivan said to Tiffany, his voice suddenly hard and uncompromising. I'm going to have to ask you to come with us. It's probably best if you don't say anything more until you have a lawyer present. A lawyer? I don't need a lawyer, she wailed as one of the officers gently but firmly took hold of her arm. The fight had completely drained out of her, replaced by a desperate, childish panic. This isn't fair. I'm a model. I'm Tiffany Vance, Evelyn said simply, and I am Evelyn Rostov. The names matter, don't they? As the officers escorted a now sobbing Tiffany Vance out through the service hallway. The same way the waitstaff and other help came and went, the dining room was left in a stunned, graveyard-like quiet. Evelyn turned her gaze to the 2 remaining men at the table. First, Mr. Bissett. He was visibly shaking, nervously clutching his hands together. Miss Rostov, I had no idea. I am so sorry. You're sorry? Evelyn asked, her voice flat and devoid of any emotion. What exactly are you sorry for, Mr. Bissett? Are you sorry that you were about to fire me without any just cause whatsoever? Are you sorry that your entire management philosophy is centered around protecting the abuser while simultaneously punishing the victim? Or are you just sorry that the waitress you were so quick to dismiss turned out to be your new boss? Please, Ms. Rostov, my family, he begged, his voice cracking with desperation. Your family? What about Sarah's family? Evelyn shot back, her voice rising for the first time that evening. What about the families of every single staff member you've let people like that walk all over? You're not a manager, Bissett. You're a gatekeeper for a toxic system. She pointed towards the exit. Go. Go to the back. Clean out your locker. You're not suspended. You're fired. Bissett looked as though he had been shot. He opened his mouth to speak, but no sound came out. He let out a strangled sob, turned abruptly, and stumbled away, a man who had just lost the one small, petty kingdom he had ever ruled. Finally, she was left alone with Michael Thorne. He was still sitting motionless in the booth, a ghost haunting a Tom Ford suit. "Michael," she said, her voice sharp and cutting. He visibly flinched. "Miss Rostov, I can fix this. The Apex deal. It's solid. The tech is revolutionary. Don't kill the company because of her. Because of me." Evelyn calmly sat down in the chair opposite him, the very same seat that Tiffany had so recently occupied. She was still a mess, her hair matted with wine and haphazardly wearing a man's jacket, but she was without question the only person with any real power in the entire building. "I'm not killing the company, Michael. I bought the company. It's mine now. The tech is brilliant, I'll give you that. Your leadership, however—" She leaned in closer, her voice dropping to a near whisper, "is non-existent. I was stressed," he whispered, his voice trembling. "The board, Aura Capital, they've been silent. We've been in the dark. I didn't know what was happening." "What was happening," Evelyn stated coldly, "is that I was waiting. I was watching. I wanted to see what kind of man the CEO of my new multi-billion-dollar acquisition actually was. And what did I see?" She leaned back in her chair. "I saw a man who is so weak, so pathetically insecure, that he allows a child in a diamond dress to lead him around by the nose. I saw a man who would rather watch his girlfriend assault a member of his staff than risk a small personal confrontation. I saw a man who, when given a choice between a human being and a black card, chose the plastic. Apex Innovations doesn't need a king, Michael. It needs a leader. And you're not even a good boyfriend. You're just a hollow suit." She stood up abruptly. "David Hayes, my lawyer, was not exaggerating. Your contract is terminated, effective immediately, under the morals and gross negligence clauses. Security is already on their way to your office to pack your things. They will escort you out of the building." Michael simply nodded, his eyes still fixed blankly on a wine stain on the tablecloth. He had absolutely nothing left to say. "Oh," Evelyn added, turning back to face him. "One last thing." He looked up, a tiny, desperate spark of hope flickering in his eyes. "The bill for the 2005 Romani Conti. You'll be receiving it at your home address. I'll be taking it directly out of your severance." The spark died instantly. Evelyn turned and walked away, her head held high, leaving Michael Thorne completely alone in the wreckage of his spectacularly failed life. Evelyn walked to the center of the now silent dining room. The other patrons were all staring at her, some with their phones half raised, though Jack's menacing gaze kept them from actually filming. The entire staff, waiters, busboys, sommeliers, even the chefs in their pristine white coats, were standing in the doorway to the kitchen, their faces a mixture of terror and awe. Evelyn looked out at them, this small, battered army she had, up until tonight, been a part of. "My name," she said, her voice clear and strong, carrying to every corner of the room, "is Evelyn Rostov. I am the owner of Aura Capital, which, as of 6 months ago, is the 100% owner of the Golden Spire Hospitality Group. This is my restaurant." A collective gasp rippled through the room. "I came here 3 weeks ago under the name Ellie to find out why this flagship property was so drastically failing its people. Tonight, I got my answer in a very dramatic fashion." A small, nervous laugh rippled through the staff. "Mr. Bissett," she continued, "has been relieved of his duties, effective immediately." This time, the reaction was one of stunned silence. "From this moment on, things are going to change," Evelyn declared. "First, to all of our guests here tonight," she turned to address the room at large. "Your meals are, of course, complimentary. On behalf of the Golden Spire Group, I sincerely apologize for the dinner theater. Please, finish your meals in peace." She then turned back to the staff. "Second, for the staff, the restaurant is closing for the night. Jack will handle compensating any remaining patrons. Everyone, please gather in the main staff room. I want to talk to all of you. All of you. 10 minutes later, the dining room was completely empty, and the staff room was packed to capacity. It was a small, windowless space that smelled strongly of bleach and stale coffee. Evelyn stood in front of them, still wearing her damp clothes and Jack's oversized jacket. First, she began, her eyes finding Sarah in the crowded room. Sarah, the tired single mother, visibly flinched. Yes, ma'am. Ms. Rostov. You're a damn good waitress, Evelyn said. But you're an even better leader. You helped me, you trained me, and you did it all with kindness, even when you were completely exhausted. As of tomorrow, you are the new acting floor manager for LaWalder. You'll receive a 40% pay increase, full management benefits, and Aura Capital will be handling your son's childcare expenses permanently. Sarah's hands flew to her mouth, tears instantly welling up in her eyes. Miss Rostov, I don't. Just say yes, Sarah, Evelyn said, a small, genuine smile finally gracing her lips. Yes, thank you. Sarah sobbed, laughing and crying at the same time. Evelyn's smile slowly faded. Now, for the rest of you, what happened here tonight was a failure. It was my failure. I bought a company, and I didn't look closely enough at the people. I let a culture fester that believed a customer's black card was somehow worth more than an employee's dignity. That ends today. Starting tomorrow, the Golden Spire Group is being restructured from the ground up. From now on, any client, I don't care if they're a king, a CEO, or even a president, who lays a hand on or verbally abuses a member of our staff will be banned for life from all 21 of our properties. No exceptions. No appeals. The customer, she stated firmly, is not always right. A decent human being is. A wave of applause, tentative at first, then thunderous, filled the small room. Furthermore, she shouted over the noise. These uniforms are being burned. You are professionals, and you will be given a wardrobe that actually reflects that. A budget of 2,000 grialas per employee will be allocated for new, bespoke uniforms. And finally, for tonight, all of you had to witness a truly disgusting display. You all deserve so much more. Every single person on shift tonight will receive a one-time bonus. Let's call it the Romani Conti bonus of $18,000 each. The room completely exploded with joy. People were screaming, crying, hugging each other. The rot that Evelyn had smelled was being power-washed away in a flood of justice. And yes, a truly staggering amount of money. Evelyn watched them, her heart, for the first time in a very long time, feeling genuinely full. She wasn't just a billionaire queen anymore. She was a boss. And this is what a boss was supposed to do. The weeks that followed were nothing short of a quiet explosion. The story of the waitress and the wine didn't just leak. It detonated. Jack, Evelyn's head of security, confirmed it on his tablet a mere 12 hours after the incident. A diner sitting in a quiet corner booth had indeed managed to film the entire horrifying exchange, from Tiffany's first polyester jab to the final, spectacular splash of the Romani Conti. The video was shaky, and the audio was muffled by gasps, but it was absolutely damning. It went from a private TikTok account to a viral Reddit thread almost instantly, and by morning it was the lead story on every major news outlet. Headlines screamed, CEO's girlfriend's $18,000 assault, and more famously, the billionaire queen in the polyester apron. The ghost of Wall Street was a ghost no longer. Evelyn Rostov had a face, a name, and a hell of a story. For a woman who had built an empire from the shadows, the sudden, intense glare of the global spotlight was jarring. But as she watched the story unfold from her penthouse apartment, she realized that it wasn't a liability. It was actually an asset. The billionaire queen, a name she had once despised, was now being used as a term of respect, a symbol of power used for good. The downfall of Tiffany Vance was as swift as it was public. She was formally charged with assault, vandalism, and, in a creative legal move by David Hayes, willful destruction of corporate assets. Faced with the undeniable viral video, Michael Thorne's pathetic, last-ditch attempt at self-preservation through his testimony, and the collective witness of the entire dining room, her legal team didn't stand a chance. Her Envy perfume line was dropped by every major retailer within 48 hours. Its name now a bitter irony. Her modeling contracts evaporated. No luxury brand wanted to be associated with such a cartoonishly ugly image of entitlement. She became a pariah, a living meme for Karen on steroids. She eventually pled down to a massive 6-figure fine, which nearly bankrupted her, 500 hours of community service, and court-mandated anger management classes. The paparazzi found her a month later, not on a red carpet, but in a rainy park in the Bronx, wearing a pair of $1,000 Balenciaga sneakers and a fluorescent orange vest, angrily stabbing at stray Starbucks cups with a trash picker. A passing teenager recognized her, shouting, "Hey, aren't you that wine toss girl?" Tiffany, her face a mask of rage and humiliation, reportedly threw the trash picker directly at them, an act that added another 100 hours to her sentence. Michael Thorne simply vanished. As Evelyn had promised, he was terminated under the morals and gross negligence clauses, which voided his golden parachute and all of his unvested stock options in Apex Innovations. The $18,000 for the bottle of wine was, in fact, the final line item on his last severance check. He was effectively blacklisted. No board would touch him with a 10-foot pole. No VC firm would fund him. He was forever known as the man who, through his own weakness and cowardice, had allowed his girlfriend to assault the new owner of his company. He became a case study in spectacularly failed leadership. The last anyone heard, he had moved to Wilmington, Delaware, and was desperately attempting to rebrand himself as a crypto strategist, operating out of a noisy, shared WeWork space. He still wore his old Tom Ford suits, but they looked different now, a hollow costume on a hollow man, haunted by the ghost of the king he thought he was. True to his deeply ingrained nature, Mr. Bissett actually tried to sue. He filed a claim for wrongful termination, emotional distress, and defamation. The case lasted less than a day. David Hayes, Evelyn's lead counsel, didn't even have to speak. He simply submitted Bissett's personnel file, which, now that the staff felt safe to speak up, was overflowing with incriminating evidence. It contained 11 sworn affidavits from current and former staff, detailing Bissett's long and consistent history of management by fear, his willingness to sacrifice staff to appease demanding clients, and his specific, repeated habit of completely ignoring harassment claims against high-rolling clients. When presented with the overwhelming evidence, and, of course, the video of him casually firing his new boss, Bissett's own lawyer advised him to immediately drop the suit before Evelyn countersued him personally and ruined him completely. He slunk out of the courthouse, a man completely defeated by the very system he had so faithfully worshipped. But the real story, the one that truly mattered to Evelyn, was the one that unfolded inside the Golden Spire. The $18,000 Romani Conti bonus was a legend, but the real change was deeply structural. 6 weeks after the now infamous incident, Sarah, the former single mother waitress, stood in the main boardroom at Aura Capital's headquarters. She was no longer wearing polyester. She wore a sharp, dark blue pantsuit that Evelyn's personal tailor had custom-fitted for her. She was visibly nervous, standing before a 50-foot marble table surrounded by stone-faced executives in $10,000 suits. At the head of the table, Evelyn watched silently, offering only a reassuring smile. Sarah was presenting her staff-first initiative. The problem at LaWalder, Sarah began, her voice trembling slightly, wasn't the clientele. It was the deeply ingrained culture. We were trained to believe that we were completely replaceable. We were implicitly taught that our dignity was somehow less valuable than a black card. One of the executives, a man named Henderson, cleared his throat pointedly. "Miss Miller, while we appreciate the rustic insight, the numbers, sir, the numbers are precisely why I'm here," Sarah interrupted, her voice suddenly finding its steel. She had faced down Tiffany Vance. She certainly wasn't going to be intimidated by Henderson. "Our turnover rate in the last fiscal year was a staggering 85%. That cost us $1.4 million in recruitment, training, and associated errors. My staff-first proposal is not a perk. It's a strategic investment." She clicked to the next slide. First, the Code Red policy. Any guest who verbally abuses, harasses, or physically touches a member of our staff is given one single warning. A second offense, or any unwanted physical contact whatsoever, results in a permanent group-wide ban. No appeals. The system is managed directly by me, not by the floor manager. Henderson scoffed audibly. You want to ban our highest-spending clients? I want to ban our most toxic clients, Sarah corrected. And I'm not finished. Second, the childcare stipend. We have 34 employees in this restaurant alone with children. We will pay for their childcare. All of it. Happy, secure parents make for focused, happy employees. She clicked again. Third, profit sharing. 5% of all quarterly profits will be divided equally among all non-management staff. They build the restaurant's success, so they will directly share in its success. She took a deep breath. This isn't about being nice. This is about creating a fortress. A team so secure, so respected, and so well compensated that they can offer a level of service that no other restaurant in the world can even touch. We won't just be a 3-star restaurant. We'll be a legend. The room was silent. Henderson looked down at his spreadsheet, clearly annoyed. Then Evelyn spoke, her voice quiet but firm. Henderson, what do you think? I think, Henderson said, his face a mask of disapproval, that the costs are significant. It's sentimental. It's not sentimental, sir, Sarah countered sharply. It's the new cost of doing business. The old model, the customer is king model, cost us $18,000 for a single bottle of wine. My model costs less, and it saves us our soul. Evelyn Rostov smiled, a wide, genuine smile that reached her eyes. Gentlemen, she said to the table, I want to thank you all for coming, and I'd like to formally introduce you to the new Director of Operations for the entire Golden Spire Hospitality Group, Sarah Miller. She turned her attention back to the now pale Henderson. Henderson, you will be personally in charge of securing the funding for her entire proposal. Every single line item. Is that perfectly clear? Henderson simply nodded, his face even paler than before. LaWalder, under Sarah's direct management, became the hardest reservation to get in the entire world. The service was legendary, not because it was obsequious or subservient, but because it was confident and empowered. The staff, all dressed in elegant, bespoke uniforms they had personally designed themselves, were genuinely happy. They were partners, and it unequivocally showed. Employee turnover dropped to 0. Profits, after the initial investment, soared by an incredible 40%. The Code Red policy was only used twice. The word had unequivocally gotten out. You do not mess with the staff at LaWalder. Evelyn never went undercover again. She simply didn't need to. The billionaire queen had a new face. She was on the cover of Forbes magazine, not as a mysterious ghost of Wall Street, but as the visionary architect of the new people-first workplace. She had finally learned her lesson. A company wasn't just a spreadsheet. It was a collection of real people. It was a vibrant community. She stood on her penthouse balcony, looking down at the glittering city below. She could just see the warm, welcoming glow of her restaurant. Her phone buzzed softly. It was an alert from Sarah. Q3 profits are in. We're up another 12%. You are not going to believe the new training idea I have. Evelyn smiled and immediately dialed Sarah's number. Sarah, she said as the call picked up. It's Evelyn. I just saw your note. It's absolutely brilliant. Yes, but I do have one more crazy idea. What do you think about? The queen was in her castle, and for the first time all was right in the kingdom. And so, the reign of the cruel girlfriend came to a crashing end, and the billionaire queen built a new, better kingdom from the ashes of the old. This powerful story serves as a potent reminder that the uniform absolutely does not make the person. The person who serves you your coffee, the waitress who brings you your meal, the janitor who cleans your office. They are all people. They all have stories to tell, and they all deserve basic human respect. You never, ever know who you are really talking to. The person you dismiss as trash might just own the entire company. What did you think of Tiffany's epic downfall? Was Michael just as guilty? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. We've all witnessed injustice at work, and we all love a satisfying story where the bully finally gets exactly what they deserve. Thank you so much for watching. If you loved the story, please hit that like button, share this video with someone who definitely needs to see it, and be sure to subscribe and ring that notification bell for more real-life drama and karma stories just like this one.